So building a two-sided marketplace, it's really valuable when it works because you have network effects and you've got two sets of people who are loving what you're doing. But obviously it's really tough because you have two sets of customers who are very different, and then not only do you have to bring them both onto the platform, you then have to make sure that they both stay on the platform to communicate with each other, and then they keep coming back to the platform to keep those communications going. So a very different challenge to when you're selling just a software to one side, or a product or an e-commerce thing to one side. So that's kind of the overlay of the benefits and the pros and the cons of building a two-sided marketplace. So why did we decide to build a two-sided marketplace? The problem that we're solving is the fact that relationships are really difficult to get made between brands and athletes. And so we liken ourselves to the Match.com of sports sponsorship. I think we use that phrase a lot. Our clients use it a lot, and it really is. If you think about the dating example, it's very similar. So previous to Tinders and Match.coms and everything else, you would walk into a bar and hope to find the right person, and you'd spend all of this effort getting ready and making yourself look great in the hope of finding this person on that night out, and it was all left to chance. And the problem is that the perfect person for you is probably 100 meters away, but you're never connecting with them. And so really similar for sponsorship, right? Where you've got the perfect athlete and you've got the perfect brand, but they can't find each other because they're not actually sure who the other person is and what's the data beyond it. And so for us, we thought, okay, well, if we create the platform where these two sides can meet, then that's half the problem. And so how did we think about building a two-sided marketplace? Well, the chicken and an egg, they talk about this a lot. For us, what we decided is let's go for the supply side first. So let's get enough athletes onto the platform that if we talk to a brand or a marketing manager and say, hey, come to us for your athletes, there's enough people there that we could look legitimate. The way that we got the athletes is because we knew the industry, right? Being former sports agents, we knew the problem we were solving, we knew the pain points that we were essentially going to tell the athlete that we were solving for them, and we knew the language in which to speak to them. And so because of that, we were able to get enough athletes on the platform. I think it was when we hit around 1,000 that we felt comfortable to now go out to brands and start pitching that. The chicken and egg is really interesting because if you have athletes on the platform for too long before you bring them on the other side, then what happens is they think your product doesn't work. Obviously, as a user, you're not like, oh, okay, that's all right, take your time, right? They want to see results. And so it's pretty important to, as soon as you start getting a critical mass on one side, to pause your efforts there and move on to the other. And so for us, we went onto the brand side. Now that was really interesting because essentially we were appealing to brands who hadn't done sports marketing before. So there was a lot of education, a lot of convincing them about why athletes would work. And at the beginning, your tech it's not that well built out. Your data isn't, you don't really have any. So it's a pretty difficult sales process. But we got it going, we got enough leverage, and we built enough kind of brands where now the other side, the athlete side, that starts evolving itself, right? Like word of mouth, people finding us through like SEO and other places. And so really I'd say now our athlete side is pretty organic, mostly, which is great. And the brand side, the supply side, is where we spend most of our focus. When we sign up both sides, when we sign up the athletes and the brand side, there's a pretty heavy education piece, because even if you are familiar with sponsorship, the way that we do things is really different. So if I was to give you an example of recruitment, which we also think we're really similar to, if you before used to sit around and wait for the phone to ring from headhunters, and suddenly you're given, a platform like LinkedIn or AngelList, and you're told, hey, like apply to these jobs and specify what money you should make and specify why you're good for them, then obviously it takes a moment for the users to to think about things in a different way and to be proactive. And so for us, we spend quite a bit of time up front trying to tell our athletes and our agents, like, hey, these are the reasons that you should be proactive, and we have to build that into the platform. So our workflow means that as soon as they sign up their own profile, we push them into campaigns, and then we're constantly encouraging them to apply to more campaigns. So in terms of kind of investment as to like getting the system to work, for sure, both sides requires quite a bit. So I'd say we were really lucky initially when it came to PR and recognition. So I got on the Forbes 30 under 30 list really early on into Open Sponsorships Live. What's interesting about the 30 under 30 list is that it's almost like it's a promise of things to come. I say that the 40 under 40 list is like you have to have made it to be on it, whereas with 30 it's like there's a lot of potential, and you've still got a few ways to go. So obviously, having been a successful sports agent across India, England, worked across so many sports, it was already like, okay, great, I'd proved myself in that respect. And now it was like, okay, open sponsorship's a good idea, but can she make something of it? So we got some really quick early wins, Sports Technology Awards listed as a finalist. So that was great, but to be honest, any sort of PR, it comes, it peaks, and then it drops. And so what lives on is, can you convert people into customers? Can you keep those customers on the platform? If they're athletes and they sign up for free, can you keep them engaged? So PR is great, but there's a lot more to do beyond that. Obviously I'd done sales as a sports agent, and so when I sold Open Sponsorship initially, it was really funny. Like we obviously had a platform, but I didn't even know what a product demo was. So I would describe over the phone what our platform does. And I'd say the reason that we got our first customers, they call it founder sales, and it really is true. Like, you are so passionate about what you've built. You can obviously speak so eloquently about what you've built and what problems it solves. You go over and above in your pitch. So in terms of like ideation, and you're almost giving away so much for free. Technically I could have competed with an agency in terms of the ideas I was giving, but those were ideas that I was hoping you were going to execute on the platform. And so I think on the early days, when you don't have data and you don't have case studies or any of those good things, you're basically relying on passion and knowing the problem so deep that when you speak to your customer, they're just like, yeah, of course, like this makes so much sense, of course, let me buy it. Make sure you're in it for the long run, because it's really difficult and lots of hard work. Two, if you are specifically focused on a marketplace, find the side that is going to be most patient. Usually it's your supply side, because at the end of the day, when it works, they get money, so they don't mind waiting. As soon as you start charging people, you're going to obviously be expected to show results. I'd also say that giving away everything for free is it's a nice path for growth, but then you never actually know when people give you feedback if what you should be building or not. And so what worked out well for us was that because we charged the brands, when they left the platform or when they gave us any feedback, if they were paying us, we knew to listen to them more than if you do a customer survey with people who are not paying, because they may, even if you implement those changes, they may never pay you. And so I'd figure out, talking to your customers is really important, but talking to the right customers, the guys that are actually going to buy you if you make those changes, is really, really important. So obviously we want Open Sponsorship to be a household name. If you want to connect with athletes for your brand, for your charity, for an investment, we want you to be thinking of us and using us and no one else. And we firmly believe that right now we're the best option. So really it's just a case of getting our brand out in front of more and more people. And so we've not invested in marketing, and so this is going to be a really exciting next year for us, where we we expedite our sales, we invest in marketing, and we really think about how do we become that household name.